Our journey with the Quran. And again, I always like to remind all of us, not to rely completely on the one session a week, no matter how much we do, but also to try to get into the habit of having a regular time with the Quran. It's an amazing book, not because we are Muslims and it is our sacred book, but it is amazing in so many ways. It's a manual that has directions on how to build a happy and successful individual, very inspiring, very empowering. While it's like, if you want to check what's going on with your body, doctors will recommend like blood tests and MRI, or that's what you do in when you reflect on the Quran, but you do it in on the spiritual part. Quran will basically will reveal areas that need work, will strengthen areas that are in good shape. Yes, it was sent to that community, but it is relevant and valid for all times and all places. If Muslims really have the right relationship with the Quran, they will be addicted to have on regular basis, on daily basis, on a regular basis, some time dedicated just to read, but read the proper way and reflect and try to extract guidance, because we were told that the guidance of the Quran will continue till the day of judgment. It will never run out. This is not a book that will be outdated, or there will be a time where you say there isn't much we can get out of it. That's a book that generations after generations will keep extracting guidance from it. So strongly recommend that we start with ourselves, and then we try to do the same with people around us, encourage them to do the same thing, or even do it collectively in groups, so that it becomes a very normal to tell people, let's have some time with the Quran, and let's get together and then choose, select some verses and reflect on them. So eloquent. Even if you don't understand, even if you read it in translation, or your Arabic is not that strong, which nowadays is the case for even most Arabs, you still see the eloquence of covering so many aspects in a short, by short statement, and that holistic approach that take the issue and tackled from all angles. And the whole purpose of the Quran is to start with you wherever you are and start moving you to the next level. And that's amazing. Quran does it in an amazing way, because Quran can try to talk about things that are ideal, but that's not going to help. If you bypass the reality and you start talking about things that are, you become too idealistic. And so that's why some scholars, they call Quran is practical and idealistic at the same time. Its approach is idealistic and practical, or pragmatic, because it starts from the reality and start working to elevate it, to bring it to higher level. The more you read the Quran, the more you realize how bad that the situation was when the Quran was revealed, how messy that community was, and society and the world in general, how much challenges those that prophetic community faced. It's and you see the Quran working on all of this at the same time, working on the Muslim individual, strengthening faith, fixing some weaknesses, educating Muslims about the challenges and the conspiracies, etc., and telling them how and strengthen them and direct them on how to deal with it, fixing the social diseases, and there were so many of them in that society. And subhanAllah, from the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he chose that society because it has so many problems that whatever was revealed to fix it will be relevant all the time, in all places. Everybody will find some guidance or advice that are relevant to them. So last time we stopped at وَاتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ خَلِيلًا. So established the rule, clear rule, which is there is no chosen people, there are no privileges. ليس بأمانيكم ولا أماني أهل الكتاب. It's not your claims of people don't matter. Everybody can claim whatever they want. من يعمل سوءا يجزى به. That's it. So whoever does anything wrong will be من يعمل سوءا يجزى به ولا يجد له من دون الله وليا ولا نصيرا ومن يعمل من الصالحات من ذكر وأنثى. This is very fundamental in Islam, because you know that there are other theories, but this individual responsibility, personal accountability is very, very essential. Anyone does, okay, before good deeds, anyone who does wrong will be requited for it, and will find no one to protect or help him against God or against Allah. So very ولا تزر وازرة وزر أخرى. Nobody is responsible for anybody else's sin, and nobody can intercede. Anyone, male or female, who does good deeds, and so the one who commits sin will find no one to protect or help him. Anyone, male or female, who does good deeds and is a believer, it will enter paradise and will not be wronged as much as the dip in a date stone. That's an amazing example there, metaphor. And who could be better in religion than those who direct themselves wholly to Allah, do good, and follow the religion of Abraham, who was true in faith. Allah took Abraham as a friend. So establishing that individual responsibility, personal responsibility, that you're going to stand before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the day of judgment, you and your record, nothing else. Nobody, no lawyers, nobody. It's you and your record, and you're going to be your own judge. اقرأ كتابك كفى بنفسك اليوم عليك حسيبا. You will be your own judge. You'll be given your book, and you'll be your own judge. It's very clear. Everything was recorded. You will see that absolute justice is established, and you will not be wronged at all. And then directing, as Quran always, establishing principles, directing you to do things, discouraging you from doing others. So here, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ دِينًا, just setting you the example, or who is better in religion. وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ دِينًا مِمَّنْ أَسْلَمَ وَجْهَهُ لِلَّهِ وَهُوَ مُحْسِنٌ. So surrender completely to Allah, surrender your life to Allah. That's the meaning of Islam, by the way. It is the wrong definition of Islam that it consists of few things to do or few things to avoid. وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ دِينًا مِمَّنْ أَسْلَمَ وَجْهَهُ لِلَّهِ, meaning that you try to make all your life dedicated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. قُلْ إِنَّ صَلَاتِي وَنُسُكِي وَمَحْيَايَ وَمَمَاتِي لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. That's the level that you want to reach, the level where everything is in your life is dedicated to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your life, my death, my everything. So that's the meaning of Islam. Islam, it's that complete submission, but complete submission with complete love. And like what many, unfortunately, people say, they want to tell us that we want to surrender to Allah out of fear of punishment, or no, that's the poor quality of Iman. The higher quality of Iman, the good quality, is the one that comes out of love, and it's an extreme love that reached the level of worship. That you love Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so much that you want to express that love in every way. Yeah, any opportunity that comes your way, or even you create opportunity to express that love. You are grateful, so grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you want to express that. That's where the worship comes in. It's not the worship that is meant just to spare you being thrown in hellfire. No, that's a very low quality worship. So, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ دِينًا مِمَّنْ أَسْلَمَ وَجْهَهُ لِلَّهِ. The true Islam is this, is that you dedicate your life and yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in pursuit of His good pleasure. مرضات الله والجنة. يعني من أسلم يا الذين آمنوا ادخلوا في السلم كافة. Or you believe, enter religion wholeheartedly, not on the side, not something that is. So أسلم وجهه لله وهو محسن. That faith will translate into being someone who is very generous and looks for opportunity to do good. وهو محسن. That's what Islam is all about. It's your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that is meant that you work on it until it reach full submission and full dedication, extreme complete love with complete submission, and then will translate into good deeds, into someone who will never miss an opportunity to do good, or will look for opportunities to do good. وهو محسن. And then taking as an example who? Ibrahim alayhi salam. And we know the standard of Ibrahim alayhi salam, that in terms of surrendering everything to Allah and obeying Allah, to the point that even when he was asked to slay his son with his own hands, he did not hesitate. So reminding us of that standard, وَاتَّبَعَ مِلَّةَ إِبْرَاهِيمَ حَنِيفًا, and then telling us that, to encourage us to try to meet or match that standard, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us something that every believer will love to have it, which is that Allah took Ibrahim as close friends. وَاتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ خَلِيلًا. You can see in one verse, وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ دِينًا مِمَّنْ أَسْلَمَ وَجْهَهُ لِلَّهِ وَهُوَ مُحْسِنٌ. Gives you the definition of Islam in its two dimensions, which is the relationship with Allah, which translates into someone who is very benevolent, someone who is very helpful to people, because these are the most beloved deeds to Allah, helping people. And at the end of the day, how much you're going to do in terms of direct worship between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Not much. How much time you're going to dedicate praying or doing anything else, any direct worship? Most of the worship is indirect, which is serving people and helping people, guiding people in pursuit of the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then, of course, as I mentioned all the time, Quran is a book of Tawheed. Walillahi, very strong verse here, statement of Tawheed. Every time we'll remind you, this Tawheed thing, this belief in Allah, has many dimensions. You can see them in the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And in 99 names and attributes. So there are so many dimensions that all of them needs work. So Quran works on all of them with you. Sometimes it reminds you with the knowledge of Allah, sometimes with the power, sometimes with the mercy, sometimes with the wisdom, sometimes inviting you to rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The provision comes from Allah. Everything belongs to Allah. Everything is in the hands of Allah. That's all of this is. And the Tawheed verses and statement are everywhere, almost in every verse or after a verse or before, etc. There is always. So you open the Quran randomly in any page, there will be verses that will work on your relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in this very strong statement, reminding us of the fundamental aspect of Tawheed, which is that it is to Allah that everything in the heavens and earth belongs. Very strong. Sometimes we are very impressed by people who are very rich, who have billions of dollars or billionaires, but we don't remember this, that it is to Allah that everything in the heavens and earth belongs. And I encourage you to see the position of the earth in this universe. And it's like a small dot in this huge universe. So, and everything in this earth and in the universe belongs to Allah. Allah is, and then that's the the owner of everything, and then the knowledge. Allah is fully aware of all things. And we have seen in Jumu'ah, in Surah Luqman, يا بني إنها إن تك حبة من خردل فتكن في صخرة أو في السماوات أو في الأرض يأتي بها الله إن الله لطيف خبير. ما يكون من نجوى ثلاثة إلا هو رابعهم إن الله لا يخفى عليه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء. يعني it's so many verses, full Quran of verses that tells us about the knowledge of Allah, that Allah, everything under his control, and he's aware of everything. And that's not something that we should take lightly. Luqman. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Luqman, again, it came after Tawheed. Do not attribute any partners. Thanks to me and your parents, they strive. Even, my son, if even the weight of a mustard seed were hidden in a rock, just imagine, use your imagination here. The weight of mustard seed hidden in a rock, or anywhere in the heavens or earth, Allah will bring it to light, for he is all subtle and all aware. These names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and these aspects of his knowledge and his power and his mercy and etc., we should not take them lightly, or should not take them for granted. So you can see two aspects in one verse. Everything belongs to Allah, and Allah is aware of everything. And then goes back to try, again, always Quran in every passage starts with that foundation of Tawheed. and start directing you on what needs to be done, and who you are, and what is your mission, and etc. And what are the expectations, and then of course um, um, urge you or direct you to avoid certain things, but always based on that foundation, either like this, in this case, very strong statement of Tawheed, or even when the Quran says, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. That's a reminder that you who believe, all you who believe, all you who signed the contract, all you who made the commitment willingly and pledged, that's what you need to do to honor your commitment. So here, وَيَسْتَفْتُونَكَ فِي النِّسَاءِ قُلِ اللَّهُ يُفْتِيكُمْ فِيهِنَّ وما يتلى عليكم في الكتاب في يتامى النساء اللاتي لا تؤتون ما كتب لهن وترغبون أن تنكحوهن. This is verse 136, by the way. 136 or 126. Yeah, 126. ويستفتونك في النساء قل الله يفتيكم فيهن وما يتلى عليكم في الكتاب في يتامى النساء اللاتي لا تؤتون ما كتب لهن وترغبون أن تنكحوهن والمستضعفين من الولدان وأن تقوموا لليتامى بالقسط وما تفعلوا من خير فإن الله كان به عليما. In the same verse, it tells you what is wrong, what you should avoid, and what you should be doing. They ask you for a ruling about women. Say, Allah Himself gives you a ruling about them. That tells you how sensitive the companions were about asking. So it's not like they were always asking or about what are the expectations, what is it that we are supposed to do, what are the most beloved deeds to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's very different attitude and spirit from the people who are looking for what's the minimum I need to do so that I will not be thrown in hellfire. These people were asking for what is the maximum so that I will have that special status with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and high ranks. So Allah, they ask about women. Of course, that was a big issue. Lot of injustice to the point that they used to bury their daughters alive. And that to tell you how messy that community was. You already have what has been recited to you in the scripture about orphan girls in your charge, from whom you withhold the prescribed shares of their inheritance, and whom you wish to marry. This is that community is complete injustice, to the point that basically might makes right. The powerful people are making the rules and are abusing others. One of the abuse is that the trustee, the person who were assigned to be in charge of orphan people and their wealth, they abuse it. They abuse that wealth, and not only that, they try to marry those girls just to continue their abuse of the wealth that girl has inherited. So لا تؤتون ما كتب لهن وترغبون أن تنكحون. So somebody was assigned to be in charge of orphan girl. That girl has money. This person will abuse that money, and then whatever he did not abuse, he will go and try to marry that girl in order to take her wealth and not giving her rights. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is warning people that He's aware of this, and this should not be, of course, may not be like practice done by Muslims at the time, but it is practice that was still there in that community, because it says لا تؤتون تونهن ما كتب لهن. Doesn't say like the disbeliever or the non-believer. No, it's saying these problems are still in that community. I mean, of course, it might be to a small extent, but Quran doesn't have a small extent or large extent, no abuse whatsoever, because justice is the ultimate goal of this religion. And also about helpless children. Allah instructs you to treat orphans fairly. He is well aware of whatever good you do. So it starts by saying, Allah is aware of everything, and to Allah belongs everything. So whatever you have, even what you have, not what you were entrusted with, not what belongs to that orphan people. Even the money that you have is not yours, because everything belongs to Allah. So you are trustee and manager even of your own money, and you have to do it right. Never mind the money that actually does not even belong to you. So you can see the levels here. Everything belongs to Allah, which means that even your own money, you still have to manage it right. But then you are entrusted or being assigned to be in charge of those helpless people, then you have to be very careful, and you should not transgress or abuse them. And then concludes the verse by encouraging you to do good, because that's not easy. As I said in the beginning, Quran is very practical. It's very tempting. Someone has like a little girl orphan or little boy, and this kid inherited so much money, and that money is accessible, and to restrain yourself from even touching it, that's not easy. So Quran doesn't say, no, this is what you're supposed to do, and or projected in a light way. No, it tells you, encourage you to do it, and warn you against doing it, because Quran realizes that there is real temptations, and there is a strong force for people to do these wrong things. And then, so like Allah is aware of everything you do and aware of everything that happens, now is telling us that He's aware of every good thing that you do. وَمَا تَفْعَلُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِهِ عَلِيمًا. He is well aware of whatever good you do. See how amazing this Quran is. وَلِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. Everything in earth and heavens belongs to Allah. And Allah is aware of all things. وَكَانَ اللَّهُ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ مُحِيطًا. That by itself it's like a wake-up call to what is coming next. Allah, everything belongs to Allah, including yourself and your money. Everything belongs to Allah, and Allah is aware of everything. So that's the stage now. The stage is set to address that particular issue. What is the issue? Is this abuse of the orphans and girls by those who were in charge or assigned to be in charge of their money. And then concluded with what? Whatever good you do, Allah is aware of it. وَمَا تَفْعَلُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِهِ عَلِيمًا. And then Quran, again, practical, addressing another issue. So now we establish the stage, the Tawheed, the fact that everything belongs to Allah, and Allah is aware of everything. And then in the middle, Allah is aware of everything good that you do. And then what? وَإِنْ امْرَأَةٌ خَافَتْ مِنْ بَعْلِهَا نُشُوزًا أَوْ إِعْرَاضًا فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْهِمَا أَنْ يُصْلِحَ بَيْنَهُمَا صُلْحًا وَالصُّلْحُ خَيْرٌ وَأُحْضِرَتِ الْأَنفُسُ الشُّحَّ وَإِنْ تُحْسِنُوا وَتَتَّقُوا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ خَبِيرًا. Addressing another real issue. It's still there in that community. And remember, before we have seen the case, let's read the translation first. So that's 127. They ask you for a ruling about if a wife fears high-handedness or alienation from her husband. Remember before, Quran was telling us the other way around. If a husband feels this from a wife, وَاللَّاتِ تَخَافُونَ نُشُوزَهُنَّ. Now, وإن امرأة خافت من بعلها نشوزا وعراضا. To that extent, Quran was very careful and emphasized this building block of the society, the family, and also not only saying what is supposed to happen, but also troubleshooting. There is a real troubleshooting, because Quran is talking to human being, is not talking to angels. It's talking to human being, and these problems existed among, even in the prophetic community. So when امرأة خافت من بعلها نشوزا أو إعراضا, what should they do? Again, Quran will work, will go the extra mile to protect the family from disintegration, unless that becomes the better solution, as we will see in one verse or in couple verses. So if a wife fears high-handedness or alienation from her husband, neither of them will be blamed if they come to peaceful settlement, for peace is best. By the way, this is something that I want to stop, I want to reflect on, because, by the way, this is one of the very common issue nowadays, and it is a taboo. People, they don't talk about it. In many Muslim countries, the rate of divorce is alarming and is not less than anywhere else. It's an alarming rate of divorce. But what is not included is the rate of the de facto divorce, which is people who are practically divorced, but it's not announced. They're still living together. And from the cases I was exposed to here and abroad, I don't exaggerate if I say probably the majority or a very high percentage of Muslim family who are in that situation, where they are not truly married and they're not truly divorced. Because marriage has a different definition. It's that relationship of affection and love and trust and respect and open communication, etc. It does exist, but I will not exaggerate if I say it is the exception, it's not the norm. And that's very unfortunate. It's a very unfortunate that's the case, because why? Because we're still, in our communities and societies, we still marry haphazardly, with no adequate preparation, with no adequate counseling, with no adequate support, with no etc. And then we the situation ends up, and because of our pride, we don't want to talk about it, so we end up in that situation, which is Quran calls it al-mu'allaqa, when a woman she's not really married and she's not really divorced. We created another status here, and that's because of the many problems that I already mentioned, but also because of this wrong idea of divorce that is among Muslims nowadays, especially some ethnicities among Muslims, mostly Arabs, that became thinking mostly like Catholic marriage, that divorce is something that is very bad, to the point that people can do much worse, can go for much worse options, just because they are parents are afraid of divorce, women are afraid of divorce, everybody is afraid. Which is very different from the situation at the time of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It was very simple. People used just to try, make it happen, make it work. It doesn't work, they divorce, they remarry. Was much, much simpler than this mess that we have, this paradigm that need to be demolished completely and changed, of course, starting with prevention, which is taking the proper steps before marriage and making sure that it's done right, and then there is proper counseling and support, and all precautions were taken, and also all the solutions were pursued. But if it is not working, it's not working. There is no point. I mean, I was exposed to cases where the husband and wife are staying. They say they're staying just because of children. And those children grow up and start begging them to separate. They say, Ammu, can you please just convince them that We don't need them to do this for us. Just let everybody go their way. So that's to tell you why Quran is very valid, very relevant. So it's not like idealistic say, no, there should be no problem in the, no, there are problems. And this can happen. So it tells you preventive measures. It's like any good doctor will tell you about things that you can do to prevent or avoid high blood pressure or diabetes or a problem. But then also there are remedies. So the women start to see that her husband is basically not as interested as he used to be, or especially if they have more than one wife before. But even if it is not, if there is no polygamy, even if it is one wife, and then Quran is telling that there is no problem if they come up to a settlement in which she can give up on some of her rights, whether emotional or materialistic or whatever settlement, if that family can be still saved. So Quran says, and left it for them. فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْهِمَا أَنْ يُصْلِحَ بَيْنَهُمَا صُلْحًا. And we have seen in other verse, صُلْحًا. We have seen the other verse that they can appoint one from each family, and they can, wise person from each family, and they can come up with a compromise or deal. Again, this is trying still to salvage the family. وَالصُّلْحُ خَيْرٌ. It's better. But of course, talk about it, address it, and find a settlement or a deal or a compromise, and then they agree on them. So there is a working formula, not leaving an issue where there is very poor communication and there is fighting all the time. No, that's not. Coming to a settlement. وَالصُّلْحُ خَيْرٌ. Encourage them to do this. And then Quran, in a very touching the reality, وَأُحْضِرَتِ الْأَنفُسُ الشُّحَّ. And make no mistake about it. Yes, they're companions. Yes, there was a great community, but they're still human beings. And Quran is addressing them as a human being. Although human souls are prone to selfishness, whether it is from the husband or from the wife, there is tendency for a human being to be selfish. So to compromise or to give up on some of their rights or some of etc., it's not going to be easy. Quran recognizing that it's not easy, but says that you need to try. So فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْهِمَا أَنْ يُصْلِحَ بَيْنَهُمَا صُلْحًا. That tells you the flexibility, tells you the practicality of this religion, how practical it is, gets to that point. And when it comes to the family, it gets to the details. Usually Quran is general guidance and guidelines, but when it comes to the family, it gets into the details. وَإِن تُحْسِنُوا وَتَتَّقُوا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ خَبِيرًا. And if you do good and are mindful of Allah, He is well aware of all that you do. Again, the emphasis on the knowledge of Allah in Quran should do two things at the same time. One, it should empower you to restrain yourself from doing wrong, because Allah is watching you. But also it should empower you to do your best because Allah is watching you. So when تحسنوا وتتقوا فإن الله, so it's not that knowledge of Allah should trigger both. I mean, really gives you power to do more or to do your best, and also give you power to restrain yourself. So in the previous verse it was وَمَا تَفْعَلُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِهِ عَلِيمًا. Any good that you do, He is well aware of whatever good you do. And in this verse, وَإِن تُحْسِنُوا وَتَتَّقُوا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ خَبِيرًا. If you do good and are mindful of Allah, Allah is well aware of all that you do. And then more practicalities. Again, about this issue, more practical. وَلَن تَسْتَطِيعُوا أَن تَعْدِلُوا بَيْنَ النِّسَاءِ وَلَوْ حَرَصْتُمْ. فلا تميلوا كل الميل فتذروها كالمعلقة وإن تصلحوا وتتقوا فإن الله كان غفورا رحيما. This time ولن تستطيعوا أن تعدلوا بين النساء ولو حرصتم. So it's not like no, these are companions, they no, these are a human being, they are great people, but a human being. You will never be able to treat your wives with equal fairness. Now you can say, what's going on here, polygamy? Yeah, polygamy, because there was polygamy at that time, so Quran is dealing with it, dealing with the reality. Now it's not, my opinion is that the norm is one wife and monogamy, and because of so many things, even in any circumstance, but especially nowadays. Yeah. But there was a reality that Quran has to deal with it. So there was polygamy in that society. You will never be able to treat your wives with equal fairness. This is the fairness, the emotional fairness. Sometimes you cannot even do it with your children, which is you cannot control your emotions. But the fairness that Quran requires you to do, because that's beyond your control, it's in the treatment. In the treatment, however much you may desire to do so, but do not ignore one wife altogether, leaving her, and listen to this word this phenomena that I was talking about, leaving her suspended between marriage and divorce. I'm telling you, Muslim societies and Muslim communities this is very widespread. The suspension between marriage and divorce, either a woman is in that situation or the whole family is in that situation, it's so widespread. And it is about time to talk about it and to address it, because it's not helping. It's a taboo, but we should not go to the extreme. Quran wants to protect this family and salvage it by all means, preventive measures and also corrective measures. But there is a point where divorce becomes the better for everybody. And if you reach that point, then people should not hesitate to go for it, because there is no point in thinking that, again, in terms of that we turned Muslim marriage into Catholic marriage, and it is not. And we shouldn't. So you can tell how Quran is focusing on the rights of the weak people. Women at that time were, and unfortunately probably in all times, is the weak segment of the society, and then the orphans and etc. Quran is focusing on these, becoming the advocate for those weak people so that they will not get abused. And then its approach is always relying on strengthening the iman, the tawheed, the taqwa, because if that happens, then every person starts policing himself or herself from abuse, and that's the best situation. But also having preventive measures and corrective measures so that society will be in better shape in terms of justice. And then with all the encouragement to do good and to salvage the family, وَإِن تُصْلِحُوا وَتَتَّقُوا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِمَا تَعْمَلُونَ. This time, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ غَفُورًا رَحِيمًا. Look at 3 verses in the row. وَكَانَ اللَّهُ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ مُحِيطًا. That's the knowledge. That's the foundation. And then telling us what we're supposed to do and what we shouldn't, do's and don'ts. And then conclude by saying, whatever good you do, Allah is well aware of it. وَمَن تَفْعَلُ مِن خَيْرٍ فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ بِهِ عَلِيمًا. And then what? And then comes back to tell us there is a situation that need to be, this is how it should be treated. And then when تُحْسِنُوا وَتَتَّقُوا فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ كَانَ مَا تَعْمَلُونَ خَبِيرًا. If you do good and are mindful of Allah, Allah is well aware of all that you do. As I told you, the knowledge of Allah is very strong motivation for you to do good, and is very strong effective empowerment for you to restrain yourself. because Allah, in both cases, because Allah is watching. And then this time, if you make amends and remain conscious of Allah, again, taqwa, this time in tuslihu, previously in tuhsinu, and before that in ma taf'alu min khayran, so taf'alu min khayran, tuhsinu wa tattaqu, tuslihu wa tattaqu. He's most forgiving and merciful. So he's aware, he's forgiving and merciful. All of these are incentives for you to do good. And then comes وَلِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. Again, it's a very similar to the one that starts with وَلِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. وَلَقَدْ وَصَّيْنَا الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ وَإِيَّاكُمْ أَنِ اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَإِنْ تَكْفُرُوا فَإِنَّ لِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَكَانَ اللَّهُ غَنِيًّا حَمِيدًا. وَلِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَكَفَى بِاللَّهِ وَكِيلًا. إن يشاء يذهبكم أيها الناس ويأتي بآخرين وكان الله على ذلك قديرا. من كان يريد ثواب الدنيا فعند الله ثواب الدنيا والآخرة وكان الله سميعا بصيرا. I strongly recommend that you memorize this 4 verses. It's about half a page. It's a very concentrated dose of Tawheed. So try to really reflect on those verses and also memorize them. So reminding us, it starts from, again, everything in the heavens and the earth belongs to Allah. وَلِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَمَا فِي الْأَرْضِ. We have commanded those who are given the scripture before you, and we command you to be mindful of Allah. Taqwa. It's the magic solution. It's the solution that will make everybody very motivated to do good and very capable of restraining themselves. Better than any law enforcement that you can have. I mean, it's taqwa. It's injecting that self-restraint inside so that there is a person who is very motivated to do their best and very capable of restraining themselves. So if I want to summarize, what is it that Allah commanded people all the time? The people who have given the scripture before you. And we command you, what is, if you want to summarize in one word, is taqwa, and ittaqullah. And that's, you can see it in the story of the prophets. That was the message of all prophets, is and ittaqullah. طيب. وإن تكفروا فإن لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض. Again. وكان الله غنيا حميدا. So that's commanding you for taqwa. But if you choose not, even if you do ignore him, ignore Allah, everything in heaven, in the heavens and earth belongs to him. It's very silly to take that option. It's very silly. You are living in his kingdom. You are completely under his mercy. You are completely dependent on him. He's free of all your needs. He's inviting you to do something that is in your best interest, and you choose not to do it. And he knows what is better for you than more than what you know, and he cares about you and loves you more than a mother loves her baby. And he's giving you, telling you what is in your best interest. This is how you become a very happy person and very successful. And you choose to ignore that. Everything in heavens and earth belongs to him. And he is, and that's, subhanAllah, the names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are very, very carefully selected in every verse. So what is the names that comes here? Kana Allahu ghaniyan hamida. Allah is free of, Allah is self-sufficient, worthy of all praise. And Allah mahmudun bidatih. And you choose it you choose to be grateful or not. That's not going to make any difference, because Allah is Hamid. He's worthy of all praise. And then Ghaniyan, Samad, the one that whom everybody needs, but he needs nobody. وكان الله غنيا حميدا. إن تكفروا فإن الله غني عنكم ولا يرضى لعباده الكفر. الله سبحانه وتعالى in سورة الزمر. تكفروا فإن الله غني عنكم ولا يرضى لعباده الكفر. So ولله ما again ولله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض. This time it's number 4. So in the passage of today, this is number 4, the 4th time ولله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض is mentioned. وكفى بالله وكيلا. Because everything belongs to Allah, you should put all your trust in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Yes, indeed, everything in the heavens and the earth belongs to Allah, and He is enough for those who trust in Him. وكفى بالله وكيلا. Put all your trust, and we talked about tawakkul before. This is one of the very powerful tool in the hands of Muslim, together with dua, supplication, and tawakkul, relying on Allah. Very powerful tools that most people are not using them. They're not taking advantage. If they are done properly, if you do dua sincerely and intensively, and if you practice this tawakkul the right way, which is you do everything you can, and then you put all your trust in the hands of Allah, it's sufficient. وَكَفَى بِاللَّهِ وَكِيلًا. And then very strong statement, إِنْ يَشَأْ يُذْهِبْكُمْ أَيُّهَا النَّاسِ وَيَأْتِ بِآخَرِينَ. And then وَكَانَ اللَّهُ عَلَى ذَلِكَ قَدِيرًا. If He so willed, He could remove you altogether and replace you with new people. Can you imagine? There's billions of people on earth. Allah can remove them in no time, kun fayakun, and bring others. إن يشاء يذهبكم أيها الناس ويأتي بآخرين وكان الله على ذلك قديرا. He has full power to do so. So we have everything belongs to Him. We have the knowledge, aliman, khabiran. We have the self-sufficient, ghaniyan, hamidan, and wakilan, and then qadiran here. من كان يريد ثواب الدنيا فعند الله ثواب الدنيا والآخرة وكان الله سميعا بصيرا. Whoever, if some want to the rewards of this world, the rewards of this world and the next are both Allah's to give. He hears and sees everything. Again, very strongly recommend that everybody memorize, reflect, understand, and use them in prayers. Whoever wants the rewards of this life, that's what people want. Allah is telling us that He has the rewards of this life and in the hereafter, which corrects a very serious and severe misunderstanding that in the minds of many Muslims, because of the lectures and books and literature that says that Muslim, you have to choose between this life and the hereafter, and if that's the case, then you can neglect this life and then focus on the hereafter. That's absolutely wrong. That it's okay to be failure or to be loser in this life. Why? Because you are Muslim, you're focusing on the hereafter. And tell you that the Prophet died as a poor person, and that's not true. Whoever, if you really want to be happy and successful in this life, follow the guidance of Allah. That's what it's saying here. Because the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is meant not only to make you successful in the hereafter, but also to make you the happiest and most successful person in this life. To realize the full potential that Allah has given you. من كان يريد ثواب, very powerful statement by the way. من كان يريد ثواب الدنيا, you're looking for to be successful in this world, follow the guidance of Allah. فعند الله ثواب الدنيا والآخرة. In the guidance of Allah, you will find everything you want and you need, both in this life and in the after. Of course, this is with the proper understanding of Islam, the true Islam, not the version that will focus on some aspect, neglect others, or that were very mutilated and twisted. And then وَكَانَ اللَّهُ سَمِيعًا بَصِيرًا. So we'll stop here because the next passage is different, and we are close to finish the 5th juz' part out of 30 in the Quran. So all the time that we spend, we're still, and we're really not, I mean, we're basically going a little bit fast, and we still covered less than 5 juz' of the 35 parts out of the 30 parts of the Quran.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Anushi.
Alaikum assalam.
Wanted to ask you, in the last verses that you read, it mentioned, Allah mentioned that replacing people if He chooses to. What is that referring to? Muslims or those that have the mission? What does that refer to?
It actually can be understood in more than one way. It can apply to all humanities, that Allah is capable of changing all people. It can apply to Muslims because in other verse Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَإِن تَتَوَلَّوْا يَسْتَبْدِلْ قَوْمًا غَيْرَكُمْ. It can apply to Muslims that if you fail to meet the expectations and to fulfill this mission that was assigned to you, Allah can assign to others. I can take it from you. It's an honor and responsibility. And if you're not going to live up to it, Allah will take this away from you, and like He did with Bani Israel before, and will assign to others. So it can apply to both. وَإِن تَتَوَلَّوْا يَسْتَبْدِلْ قَوْمًا غَيْرَكُمْ. And here in يَشَاء يُذْهِبْكُمْ أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ وَيَأْتِي بِآخَرِينَ. Probably it's more the first meaning because it says أَيُّهَا النَّاسُ, not believers. The other verse that I recited was mainly for believers, because in tatawallaw, you, the ones addressed by the Quran, and this time say people. Maybe it's more general to give it even bigger scope, that not only taking the mission away from Muslim and assigned to others, Allah can replace even all humanity.
Who would be in the event Allah takes that mission away from Muslims and gives it to others? Who could that be?
It could be anything. Can be anybody. I mean, Muslims is not an entitlement. It's people who take this mission, and we have seen that this mission that was assigned to Arabs in the beginning, a lot of time in history, it was championed by other groups and other nations and other ethnicities, etc. So it happened already. It happened more than once. That I mean, this is something that Allah promised to preserve, and will assign it to those who are who deserve it, because it is great honor and great responsibility. So I have seen this in history, Islam championed by people, I mean, who Islam reached them, and then they did better job in fulfilling the mission and championing it.
That is true. It has the authority, yes, has transitioned, away from Arabs and throughout time.
Yeah, just to tell them that nobody should take this as this should never become an ethnic or or birthright or an entitlement. It's like a job. I mean, if you don't fulfill the job description and you don't meet the expectations, you're going to be fired. So that's emphasizing this aspect of Islam, that it is a mission. And if you don't meet the expectation and you don't live up to this mission, then it will be taken away from you. And that's what happened to Bani Israel. And that's one of the main reasons why there is so much emphasis on Bani Israel in Quran. Why? Because these are the people who were assigned this mission before you. And this is the reason why we took it away from them. So in other words, you should do none of this. You shouldn't fall in the same trap, which unfortunately we end up doing it.
Assalamu alaikum, Dr.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
When we look at the transformation that the Sahabas have made, the contributions, and during Islamic civilization, the great thinkers and philosophers and innovators that we had, how comes like we are in our generations, we are far from that standard? And what can we do to work on ourselves, like to, they carried their mission of Islam to a greater height, and now I don't know if we have any of those individuals in our times. So what are we doing wrong, and what can we do to?
Probably the first one is easier to answer. What we're doing wrong is it's a whole paradigm that was built on a very shaky or the wrong foundation. We did not embrace our religion as a mission, and we did not pay attention to the goals of the religion. And so we replaced basically a religion that was based on a very solid foundation of Tawheed, very vibrant spiritual relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then very noble and big mission that you embrace. You realize how big it is. And then very noble and very big goals to achieve, maqasid. We took this, we put all of this aside, and then we replaced it with another religion that say you need to pray and fast and etc. So few do's and don'ts, and if you do them, you will not be thrown in hellfire. So we took a great religion that is based on love and gratitude to Allah, where people are competing to do good and very motivated and try to reach the highest level, with a religion that in which people are asking for what is the minimum, so that they will not be, I don't want to be punished, just tell me what is the minimum. And that's why there is no comparison between the two versions. That's why there is no comparison between the results. These people understood that to be Khalifa of Allah on earth, you have to understand how this universe works, how this universe functions, what are the rules that Allah has embedded in this universe, both the physical universe and the human society. That's why we have those scholars. They went and tried to discover, to try to understand, because it's part of fulfilling the mission of Islam is for me not to understand the book of Allah, which is very important, which we are not doing also, to study the book of Allah, but also to study the open book of Allah, which is the universe. So there is the book that we read, that's the Quran, there is an open book that we are supposed to explore. That's what they understood from day one. So they did that, and not only the physical part. Just yesterday I was reading something about Ibn Khaldun, which is by all means, even though the West do not acknowledge this, is the founder of the sociology. Is the first, it's not Durkheim, it's Ibn Khaldun, the first one who tried to come up with, to discover the rules that governs the human society, what makes a society prosper, what makes a society decline, etc. It was the first attempt ever in history of someone who tried to understand and discover the rules that governs the human society. And we have all those great scientists who tried to discover the rules that govern the universe. That's part of the understanding that Allah wants you to be all you can be. Allah creates you with a lot of potential, and He wants you to leverage and realize all that potential. That's what makes Allah pleased with you. That's the understanding. There is a big mission to fulfill. There are big goals to achieve. And there is a competition to be the one who is the best in the ranking with Allah. لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. Who is the best indeed. Not the one who looking for the C grade or the passing grade. That's the understanding that we need to revive. So when you know the problem, the root cause of the problem, you know how to solve it. The root cause of the problem is this. To solve it is for us to make an effort to rediscover our religion and to invite others to take that journey that starts by accepting that the version of Islam that we inherited are not really the true ones. Yes, they look similar, but they're not. And we have to start that journey of rediscovering and rediscovering that true original Islam and embrace it. Embraced as a mission with those goals and as a competition to be the best in deeds, and as a Khalifa of Allah on earth who has the responsibility to manage and develop this universe and therefore has to understand it. And then you will see Muslims back to reading, back to scientific research, etc. But without that, we're going to continue like this. I mean, the statistics that I have read about the averages in terms of the amount of reading that many Muslim countries and Arab countries compared to the rest of the world are very embarrassing. They are actually shameful. This is people whose book, the first word that was revealed was read. And then there is the pen. And then there is teach, علم الإنسان, and then there is knowledge. In the first few verses that were revealed of the Quran, it was reading, knowledge, pen, teaching, etc. Yet it's not like we are behind. They're not comparable. They are not comparable. I think the average in some countries, it's 11 books a year. I think in some Muslim countries, a quarter page or something. It's really shameful and embarrassing. So to reverse that trend, there is no way to reverse it, because our people, unfortunately, they live without dreams, without high aspirations, without any ambitions. And then the Islam gives us big dreams to fulfill. These are the dreams that generated that community. Rasul was instilling those dreams in the companions from the time in Mecca. That's what he spent his life doing. The dream of meeting Allah while he's pleased with you. And تَلْقَ اللَّهَ وَهُوَ عَنْكَ رَاضٍ. That dream can keep you going even if you are exhausted physically. That you are dreaming of the day. Now we see a student dreaming of the day to find themselves passed an exam, especially if it is standard exam or an important exam or a board exam. That dream, or an athlete dreaming of winning the gold medal, that keeps them going, give them so much motivation. And تَلْقَ اللَّهَ وَهُوَ عَنْكَ رَاضٍ. You close your eyes, you see yourself standing before Allah, and you find Allah is pleased with you. And then the other dream, which is to see these noble and great goals of Islam being fulfilled, to see justice prevail, peace prevailing, human dignity, security, freedom, virtue, etc. These great and noble goals, to see them achieved on earth, that should give you a lot of motivation to discover and to do and to give and to volunteer and etc. And that's the whole idea of jihad. Jihad is basically, it's this religion that makes a person striving, because jihad means striving, not fighting. Jihad means striving. Striving meaning doing your utmost. It is this understanding of religion and this faith, this version of Islam, that will make people strive with everything in pursuit of the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Dr. Ghannouchi, I
Yes.
have a question regarding inheritance. Should I call you after the lecture regarding that?
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
Inshallah.
Jazakallah kul khair, Dr. Ghannouchi. Inshallah, we see you next Sunday in the masjid, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.